long have I waited. It's your Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker spoiler review. I'm laughing already because I have so much to talk about. It's the spoiler review for this film, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. Listen, if you don't want to be spoiled, this is not the review for you. We're going to go into some details here about this movie and how I felt. First of all, I did not hate this movie. I'm telling you right now, I did not hate this movie, but I did not love it either. That's one thing. I try to make that clear in my non-spoiler review. I actually did not hate this movie, but it has problems, and the majority of the problems are on the technical side more than anything. However, the ending of this movie and what they did to the Skywalker with the Skywalker Palpatine thing, I get that George Lucas said that Star Wars is about family. I totally get that. Well, wait. Spoilers coming up, all right? Last chance. Anyways, I get that he said that, right? And this is the Skywalker saga, but is it just me, or was this ending, which did come out in the leaks, but actually seeing it like, you know, with your own eyes is different. Was this ending not disrespectful to George Lucas's vision? I mean, that's the way I feel. You know, within the first 6 minutes, they retcon literally every other movie in the first 6 minutes. Kylo Ren gets the Wayfinder. They totally cut out the Oracle scene like we had heard recently. He goes to get the Wayfinder. He goes into Exegol, which is the Sith homeworld, now we know. And Palpatine's there. He's been hiding there for who knows how long, since, of course, Return of the Jedi. And we find out that Snoke was a clone the entire time, and that Palpatine was controlling him, and that he wants Kylo Ren to kill the girl. That's great, except for the fact that later on in the movie, Palpatine does not want the girl to get killed. So what I think was going on here, I don't think it was necessarily a contradiction. I think it was more so that Palpatine wanted Kylo Ren to kill Rey, and then he was going to have Kylo Ren kill him and then take his body and continue the whole... Let's talk about that, all right? Let's get right into that, okay? Let's get right into it. So, this movie retcons not just... This is funny. It doesn't just retcon. And for those who don't know, retcon is retroactive continuity. In other words, they took stuff from the past and they changed the context of it to fit this movie. This film retcons the entire Skywalker saga from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, all the way until now, and Episode 8, and a lot of the novels. They literally retcon and stitched up everything here. So the entire history of the Sith is now different. Now we know in this movie, based on this canon, if you want to count Disney as canon, that the Sith, the rule of two, was made for immortality. That's the way that pretty much Palpatine described it. And every Sith that killed the other and took control throughout the generations was acting in good faith to do some kind of occult ritual where they transfer their body into the next person. So that's why they take up Padawans, trainees, whatever you want to call them, students, because of that reason. So when Palpatine told Anakin the story about Darth Plagueis the Wise, and he killed Darth Plagueis in his sleep, what he actually did was take his essence into him. So Darth Plagueis became part of Palpatine, as well as the other Sith. So are they trying to tell us that all the way back in Darth Bane? Are they trying to tell us that that's where the whole thing started? Like, that's the weirdest thing. But again, it's weird, but it's kind of an intriguing idea. Like, I hate to admit it, some folks are not going to like me saying this, but, you know, again, I'm not saying I like this idea. I would have preferred like 100 others, but this idea that Palpatine is just a vessel for these evil, you know, entities throughout the history of the galaxy, even stuff from like Old Republic and stuff like that. Who knows how long ago this goes, and, you know, that they're being passed down, like, that is a complete retcon, and it basically makes you view the previous 8 movies completely different than you did before. That's what J.J. Abrams wanted to do, and I think while the idea, I'm going to give him credit, dude, the idea, I think, is an interesting idea. It's just very flawed because there was no hints to any of this with the exception of Episode 3 if you take that conversation out of context. So now we find out that the reason why Palpatine wanted Luke Skywalker to strike him down is so that he could take over Luke Skywalker's body, right? That's essentially what this is. So all those rumors about body snatching and Snoke, they actually had these ideas, dude. I can't believe it. It just wasn't the same thing. You know, they have this Sith ritual, and I actually love this. I actually really like this part of the movie. When you had like the Colosseum, and there was all the creepy Sith loyalists and eternalists and whatnot, and you know, Palpatine's there on this kind of mechanical arm, this crane, and you know, he's basically begging Rey to kill him so he can take over her body. And he says that's the only way he's going to be able to, to stop her friends from dying. But the weird thing is, if he takes over her body, will she still have free will? Or will it just be the Sith inside of her sort of living forever? Like, that was a really, again, interesting idea, but a weird way to explain it. And I don't think the audience picked up on it. I thought that the scene at the end, I thought it was bullshit. I thought it was disrespectful to the Skywalker story and the story of Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one. In George Lucas's vision, again, I'm not saying I agree with this, but this is what Lucas wanted. Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one from Phantom Menace, the virgin birth. He had no father. He's the one who is supposed to bring balance to the Force by killing Palpatine. Turns out Palpatine's alive. What's the explanation? Because the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. So, aka, he's able to survive somehow, but he's barely alive. But he's somehow able to survive. They never explained it beyond that. So the dark side of the Force somehow protected him from dying. Then we find out that, again, he is... You know, he controlled Snoke. So was the plan always to have Snoke bring Kylo to Palpatine eventually, and then from there, you know, kind of take over his body? Like, I have a lot of questions coming out of this, dude. So the power scaling in this movie was fucking weird, dude. So at the beginning of the movie, Palpatine is able to, with the Force, lift up an entire armada, like literally like 50, 60, maybe 100 Star Destroyers out of the glaciers up into the skies, right? That was a cool fucking scene. That was a great scene. I'm like, okay, this guy's got real power. But then what I'm wondering is, okay, are those Star Destroyers, are they unmanned? Are they just there waiting for the First Order to come and kind of pilot them? Or do they already have Imperial soldiers there left over from, you know, Return of the Jedi? And if so, wouldn't they all be old? Like, there's just weird things. Like, that's weird. Like, there's ideas in this movie that I like, but the execution of them opens up more questions, and it's very confusing. I did not like... the end. This movie copied a lot from Endgame, bro. The scene where Lando shows up with the reinforcements was totally a ripoff of Endgame. But again, they've done that before in epic war movies like Return of the King and things like that. But then you have like the whole, you know, remember at the end of Endgame when Thanos goes, "I am inevitable," and Tony Stark goes, "I am Iron Man." This fucking movie, Palpatine goes, "I am all the Sith." And then Rey says, "I am all the Jedi," after hearing the voices of the different Jedi. Like, she's looking up at the heavens. Palpatine is firing lightning, fucking up all the ships. And Rey is like looking up at the heavens like, you know, what do I do? And then you hear the voice of Qui-Gon, Yoda, Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu, Anakin Skywalker. This was disrespectful, if you ask me. He says, "Rey, bring balance to the Force as I did." You didn't bring balance to shit, bro, because you didn't kill the motherfucker. You can balance these nuts, motherfucker. Balance these nuts. They retcon your shit, Anakin. That is bullshit, bro. I can imagine Star Wars purists really not liking this, dude. And honestly, if they were going to do this, right, the idea of the occult passing of the spirit could have worked with a different villain. If it was Plagueis or, you know, if Snoke had not gotten killed, I'm sure it would have been him. I don't care what anybody says. Like I said in my non-spoiler, there is no way they had a plan. They had no plan for these films at all. There is no fucking way they had this plan. In fact, Ian McDiarmid, who played the Emperor, even confirmed that JJ called him a year before they started shooting. So if you had this plan, why didn't you call the motherfucker in 2015? You know what I mean? Like, it's just complete BS, bro. Snoke was supposed to be the real villain. Snoke was supposed to be Palpatine in this movie. without question. For all we know, Rey might have been Snoke's freaking granddaughter, for all we know. I don't know. We don't even know how old Snoke is, but he's a clone, so they tossed that guy out the window. I mean, it was just comedy. The space fight in this movie I thought was great, but it was a little bit short. But the problem is that everything was too short in this movie because it was too much crammed in. This was a 5-hour movie or a 4-hour movie crammed into 2 hours and 20 minutes. There was too much going on in this movie, dude. I know everybody has said that, but it's true. It was like 4 or 5 different adventures, and I enjoyed it. Like, the good thing is that I wasn't bored. I like seeing Finn, Poe, and Rey together, but I kind of wanted more. Like, I wish, it just fucking pisses me off because that's the movie that episode 8 should have been. Like, them going on an adventure together, because Force Awakens didn't give us that. So they finally do it in this movie, but the problem is they don't really develop that friendship as much as they should, even though they have chemistry because the actors have chemistry. See what I'm saying? So there's going to be books and comics, but who cares, bro? Like, we're talking about the movies here. Like, I know they're going to explain everything in the comics and the books, but the movie should do that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, you know, a lot of interesting ideas in this movie, like I said before. You know, Palpatine broadcasting to the galaxy saying, I'm coming for you, and this, and the other thing. You know, the First Order after a year still does not have control. Okay, that's weird. You know, when we left off Last Jedi, the Resistance was like, you know, 50 people or whatever. In this movie, it's grown, which I understand. You got other rebels going on, but, you know, I don't understand how Kylo Ren has not snuffed out the First Order in a year. How has he not snuffed out the First Order in a year? So, Princess Leia, lots of love for Carrie Fisher in this movie. I like that about the movie. I thought that there was a lot more Leia scenes than I thought. Was it distracting? Not as much as other people have said. Obviously, in the back of your head, you know that lady is dead, and you know that she's not really in those scenes, that those were shot for Force Awakens, but they did a pretty good job of hiding that and making it seem like it fit with, you know, computer technology, which I'm really, really impressed by. Like, I was impressed that they were able to do that. You know what I mean? It makes you wonder about movies in the future, if you can take old movies and old actors and just kind of cut them out, like, you know, Photoshop, and paste them in modern settings. We have a scene in this movie with Rose Tico from this movie, not from the last one, and Leia right next to each other, like talking almost, like they're having a conversation, and they cut it up enough to where, yeah, you can tell it wasn't originally there, but it fit, strangely enough. And it is some creative stuff, like shooting her from behind and, you know, showing her hands only and all kinds of things like that. It was just, that's some good filmmaking, dude. I got to give him credit for that. What makes me sad about this whole thing, right, is that there was potential here. Like, there really was potential to make a great trilogy, and Force Awakens set us off on the right foot. And then Last Jedi took us all the way down. Now, look, I'm not going to turn this into the Rian Johnson hate hour, because people who say that this movie sucks because of The Last Jedi, I disagree with that. I think, yes, The Last Jedi making changes to Abrams' original vision did affect this movie because he tried to cram a lot of shit into this movie. But you cannot say that the movie is bad because of that movie, because they have had a chance to do several different things. They could have done a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different storylines. You know, the fans came up with a bunch of them. Freaking, you know, I came up with them in my head. I'm sure we've all come up with ideas for them to fix Last Jedi. And I feel like what they did, I mean, they tried. And the thing I feel weird about with this movie is I kind of feel bad. Like, I feel bad because I really genuinely feel like J.J. Abrams tried. I feel like he actually tried to please people and make people happy, and he listened. He listened to the complaints from the fandom about Last Jedi. The problem is that it's just he needed 2 movies to do it. You know, there was just too much going on. It was not creative enough, in my opinion. There was nothing in this movie that's creative, dude. That's the thing. Even except for maybe the retcon of the Sith lore, that's kind of creative, but it's still a retcon. I just feel like everything here is borrowed from another movie. You know what I mean? In fact, this movie borrows stuff from all the other movies. To be honest with you, as far as, you know, Rey being a Mary Sue, she is vulnerable in this movie, but she is still a Mary Sue. She knows all these Force abilities. For those of you asking how she knows, though, she knows because she studied the books. That's obviously the case. That's how she knows. Is that a good explanation? I don't know. Did Luke Skywalker know how to do this? I don't know, but I find it really weird that Rey knew how to heal herself and Vader the Chosen One didn't. Did Vader, go into the dark side, just not study light side stuff? I guess that makes sense. I guess the healing technique that she does in the movie is a light side technique. So that does somewhat make sense, that she's able to learn that and not Vader. But I also feel like we've never seen that move before in the history of Star Wars, but I don't hate that. Like, I actually do not hate it. And yes, they did show it on Mandalorian. I meant before this week. We haven't seen that move ever, but I did not hate the healing move at all. But I did feel like, early in the film, her and Kylo are having a tug of war with the Force over a ship. And I'm like, well, where's the Force power to fuck up these ships? I thought that was a little bit weird. Some of the stuff, like the scene with Luke and Rey, was very touching, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. But when they showed the flashback of Leia training with Luke, it actually made me really sad for a couple different reasons. Number one, Carrie Fisher's no longer with us, and it was young Carrie Fisher with the de-aging technology training with Luke. And number two, the fact that when I watched that flashback that they showed, it really makes me realize that this trilogy is a wash, dude, because I think people wanted to see that. I think people wanted to see Luke and Leia training together, Luke and Leia doing something together, badass. I think people wanted to see that. And, even before the Carrie Fisher passing, if they had restructured this trilogy, maybe we would have seen that. The Carrie Fisher passing was a very bad circumstance, and unfortunately, we're never going to know what would have happened if she didn't die. But I feel like at the same time, we're never going to know what would have happened if George Lucas didn't, sell to Disney. There's a lot of different things here. There's a lot of different concepts and ideas and possibilities. But unfortunately, in this world that we live in reality, that's just not the case. And we're pretty much stuck with these movies, for better or for worse. Honestly, I did not hate this film, but again, I didn't love it. The ending was bullshit. You know what's stupid about the ending? So Palpatine's firing Force lightning at Rey. She blocks it with her lightsaber, but he's firing super powered Force lightning, stronger than what he fired before. And she's still blocking with one lightsaber. Then she gets the other lightsaber and does a cross thing. And I'm like, since when does two lightsabers give you that much power? Do you get a power upgrade when you hold a lightsaber? Is that how it works? Kylo Ren's fighting the Knights of Ren. And if he's so strong in the Force to move ships, why doesn't he just lift all the motherfuckers up and throw them out the fucking window? That was dumb. But I loved, that being said, remember, this review is going to be really bipolar, not bisexual, not bilingual, bipolar, because I'm going to be talking about good and bad. I love when she put the lightsaber to the back of her head and warped it to him. That was awesome. I love how he fucked up the Knights of Ren and she fucked up the Red Guards. The only problem is it was so fast that you're going to have to watch that scene over again to really get it. It was supposed to be a throwback to the Praetorian Guards, but this was executed a lot better and the choreography was better. But it was almost the last time we actually saw lightsaber action, except for the finale when she does the double cross and somehow this motherfucker is shooting lightning at her, right? And then she's bouncing it back into his face. Dog, stop shooting lightning. Maybe if you stopped shooting the fucking lightning, you wouldn't get your face mauled again. It was it was the same thing they did with Mace Windu where he shot lightning back into his own face. But the difference is that here, it actually blew him up, he died. So I guess this lightning is way more powerful because he was able to siphon their powers, which that was not even a bad concept. Okay, the Force dyad, that is not a bad concept. This whole idea that two people are linked by the Force every, thousands of years or whatever the case is, that's not a terrible idea. Why it was the granddaughter of Palpatine and the grandson of Darth Vader, I guess that was the whole link between them, right? I get it. I get what they were going for. But at the same time, when he became that final boss, it should have been more of a struggle, dude. He picked up Kylo Ren, threw him down a hole, and then she's just knocked out. And he fires his lightning up, and then she gets the Jedi to wake her up, and they have the last little beam struggle. And that was it. Very anticlimactic, very uncreative. It's literally shit from Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi just crammed in here. And that's what this movie was. Shit from the past crammed in. But yeah, so he's blasting her. She's reversing it, blasting him in the face. And I'm like, dog, why are you even using lightning on her? If you have the power to lift up the entire fleet with the Force, why don't you drop one of the Star Destroyers on her? Just drop it right there. Game over. There's so many things in this movie where I'm watching and I'm like, dude, so how strong is the Force anyways? The Force is broken in this movie because it's like the power scaling goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Kylo Ren does impressive things in the first act that he just can't do in the last act, but yet in the last act, he learns how to fucking heal out of nowhere and brings Rey back to life, and they have the fan service ass Reylo kiss, which was not necessary, even though it was a good kiss. I'm going to give Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley credit. I wouldn't be surprised they hooked up behind the scenes because they a lot of chemistry there. I'm not saying anything, but I wouldn't be surprised. Look what happened with Han Solo and Leia. There was chemistry in that kiss, but then he just fades away. I will say this, when I watched the movie and they kissed, a bunch of teenage girls wooed, and I'm like, oh, there goes the Reylo. But anyways, there's that. But no, I gotta talk about, like I said, the end of the movie. Very unsatisfying. Having a Palpatine take the name Skywalker is just like bullshit, honestly. I'm not gonna like hate it too much to where it's gonna ruin everything for me. It really doesn't ruin my childhood or any of that BS whatsoever. Anybody who says that's just a moron. Like, these movies can't ruin your childhood, bro. Your childhood can't even be ruined. I have fond memories of watching the original trilogy, but they did retcon a lot of stuff. Like I said, Vader's sacrificed and saving his son. Yeah, it works for the Vader and Luke dichotomy, but it takes away from the buildup of Vader and Palpatine and their beef. You know, the beef now is Palpatine and his granddaughter, Rey. Like, that was just, a mess. Ian McDiarmid was great, though. He was great. I thought Daisy Ridley was cute. She did a good job. Adam Driver. So Kylo Ren's pretty badass in this movie. But he's not, like, the lightsaber duels in this movie, right? He's not as bad as he should have been. The lightsaber duels in this movie were, the one inside of his ship was mid, it was whatever. The one they had at the Death Star ruins was actually pretty good, but I feel like, it was good for different reasons. I was expecting some prequel level shit, and it was just like a lot of backflipping and jumping over water and shit. Like, I feel like honestly, I wanted this fight with the last lightsaber duel in the entire saga to be on par with the Revenge of the Sith fight. Maybe not as long, because there was some dumb stuff in that fight, like the swinging on the cables thing, but I wanted it to be really, really epic, and it wasn't as epic as it could have been, but it was a great character moment because we had Leia die, which was really, really stupid that she died of a broken heart or whatever, or she died so that Ben can fucking pass on, and then, Rey heals him, and then Han Solo appears, gets no reaction from the movie theater. I was expecting way more of a reaction for that scene, and that was a great scene. Han Solo is Kylo Ren's memory fucking with him, right? Remembering Han, and remembering what he did wrong, but he actually threw the lightsaber and, gave up being Kylo Ren. He's back to being Ben Solo. Again, that scene could have been so much greater. Like, I feel like The Last Jedi really did twist things in the wrong direction, or at least in the eyes of Abrams, because, people have said that this movie's a sequel to Force Awakens, and it really does feel that way. It actually feels like Force Awakens, too. Like, very fast, fun action, but there's almost, it is very video gamey. Like, it does feel like you're going from quest to quest to quest. It's just, dude, there's too much in this movie, bro. There is too much in this movie, in my opinion. There were some moments that did move me a little bit, like seeing Lando, because I'm a fan of his. That was cool. The 3PO stuff with the memory, I didn't feel anything. Honestly, there's a few scenes in the film where I didn't feel anything. When they revealed that Rey was a Palpatine, when Kylo told her, it felt a little bit anticlimactic, but at the same time, some people in the movie theater reacted, but not as big as I thought they would. I don't think people even give a shit. I think people kind of realize, like, okay, you're erasing the last movie, because honest to God, I said it before and I'm going to say it now. The way they did this, you really don't have to watch Last Jedi. You could actually start with Force Awakens and skip to this movie. All you have to know is that Luke Skywalker sacrificed his life. That's all you have to know. You do not have to watch The Last Jedi ever again. This is like the beginning and the end, And I'll be honest with you, if I had to pick between The Last Jedi, right? Okay, The Last Jedi had better character development, right? And it had, a lot more like sort of Buddhist type of things. There are good things about that film, don't get me wrong. A lot of bad too, mostly bad. But if I'm going to have a movie on in the background, like while I'm working, I'd rather it be this one than The Last Jedi. You know what I mean? Last Jedi is also really, really slow. This movie's really fast. They're very different movies from two directors who are very different people. So I'm going to close out this review, right? But I will say this before I close out. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, there is a lot to talk about with this movie. I might just keep going at this point. I don't even know if I'm going to keep going. The Poe was fine. The new characters, Jaina and Zori Bliss, got no development. Nobody cared about them. Again, they try to cram too much, and I do wonder if it's going to be like a Snyder cut situation where Abrams had like a 4-hour cut of this movie. Now, if that's the case and they release that, I could totally see that version being better. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they did do that, but at the same time, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, the decisions made in this movie were intriguing and interesting, right? They were. I love occult stuff, and I love how creepy it was to be in the original sort of homeworld of the Sith, in the Sith throne. Like, you must take the Sith throne. It actually had a Game of Thrones type of thing, but again, JJ has to copy everything. I couldn't believe it, dude. You have to take the Sith throne, and and it's just so weird, like that Rey killing this man out of hate, was supposed to be enough, I guess. I don't know, like, when you kill someone, it doesn't have to be out of hate. So, I mean, that was weird. I know I keep harping on that scene, but the Finn was just kind of a side character, honestly. Finn, Poe, and Rey together was cool. I really like them together. I really, really do. And I wish that, I actually, believe it or not, wish we got more adventures with them. I really do. I honest to God wish we had more adventures with them. Like, I wish this saga was like 4 movies. Like I said before, this could have been so much better because they were apart in, like, the majority of these films, including the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Now they're all together. But man, it just moves so fast. You don't even have time to breathe in this motherfucker, bro. I'm gonna go see it again and then probably come back. Like I said, we're gonna have a lot of videos on this. The whole lore of the franchise is broken. He broke the lore, ladies and gentlemen. He broke the lore. But some people are gonna like that he broke the lore, right? But it just, I left the movie theater feeling empty and unsatisfied. Oh, also, one more thing. Kylo Ren tells her in this movie, I never lied to you about your parents. I never lied to you. Yes, you did, motherfucker. You told her that her parents sold her out for drinking money. Yeah, you didn't tell her about her grandfather because you didn't fucking know until the beginning of the movie. But you told her that her parents sold her out for drinking money. That was a lie. They were protecting her from Palpatine. Oh, it's like some of the retconning of the last movie was kind of dumb. It was kind of dumb. Doing a follow-up to Last Jedi was hard, but you don't have to constantly reference how much you hate it, bro. There was other things that could have been done. You could have tried to, show it a little bit of respect, which they did do with the Force Dyad, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like they overdid it, and that's what this movie is, overdone. Like I said, leaving the movie theater, I felt very unsatisfied, not for this trilogy, because this trilogy is already a mess, but for the entire sort of saga as a whole. Like, this movie works as a finale to this trilogy, but as a finale to all 9 movies, no, there's too much retconning, and I know why they did it, but it just didn't work for me. Maybe I'm a Star Wars purist. I mean, you tell me what you think. But again, I didn't hate the ideas either. There's some cool stuff here. Let me know what you think in the comments, and that is the end of my spoiler review, but we'll have a lot more to talk about in the future, I'm sure, with Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. We got a lot to talk about. Oh boy. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, and let me know what you think in the comments.